one of the key things that we can do in sales to really make our job easier, to make it easier for our prospects to say yes to us, is we have to find ways to minimize the risk in our sales career. Well, retailers have known this for a long time, and they minimize the risk with money-back guarantees. If you go to Walmart and you buy a flashlight and you get home and you don't like that flashlight, you don't like the way it works, you don't like the way it feels, you don't like the way it looks, you can return that flashlight back to Walmart and get your money back or get a new one. So as a result, when you're in the aisles at Walmart and you're shopping for a flashlight, you don't have to get multiple bids. You don't have to think about it endlessly because you know if you don't like it, you can return it. But imagine the scenario, you're at Walmart and there's a flashlight right there and it says, this is your one and only chance. If you don't like this flashlight, you're stuck with it, even if it doesn't work. Well, you get home and it doesn't work, you can't return it. So what would happen? It would make it very difficult for you to say yes to buying that flashlight. You might have to go to Costco and look at theirs and go to Home Depot and look at theirs, then come back to Walmart and look at theirs. The reality is when the risk of making a purchasing decision is high, it makes it very difficult to say yes. And that's why retailers have money-back guarantees, because they know that minimizes the risk of your purchasing decision, which makes it easier for you to say yes to yourself and yes to their product when you're in the aisles. Well, there's another way to do that beyond the scope of the money-back guarantee or a satisfaction guarantee, and that is by telling your signature story. When you have a signature story that defines who you are as a company, and you share that signature story with your prospects, what that does is that demonstrates through the story and through the third-party verification through a letter from that customer, it demonstrates to your prospect that the risk of doing business with you is very low because of the wonderful things you've done in the past. As a result, when the risk is low, it makes it easier for them to say yes to you. It's a very subtle process. And Tom talked about this last week about having your signature story, really to excel in your sales career. I remember the first company I started was a small heating and air conditioning company, and I grew that company from $0 to $20 million in just 5 years. In fact, in 2009, that company was selected by Inc. magazine as one of the fastest growing companies in America. And people ask me all the time, how do you take a company knowing very little about the heating and air conditioning industry, how do you take a company from $0 to $20 million in 5 short years? Well, it's because I learned very quickly to minimize risk for our homeowners so that they would feel comfortable doing business with my company. One of the ways we did that with a signature story. Our first signature story was a lady named Sarah Parker. And Sarah had a very expensive heating and air conditioning system installed in her home. And about 8 months after the installation, she was diagnosed with cancer. When she was diagnosed with cancer, obviously a very difficult situation. She had to leave her job for treatment. It turned her financial situation upside down. She had to sell her home and really had this difficult situation. Well, she calls me up and she says, hey, I need to, because we offered a 1-year trial guarantee. We would put a system in your home, and if you didn't like it anytime during the first year, I would take it out and give your money back. So Sarah Parker calls me up and says, hey, you put this expensive system in my house. I need you to come out and take that out, put the cheapest system that you have in my house, and refund me the difference. Well, when I heard about her situation and the difficult nature of that situation, of course, we did the right thing. We let her keep the expensive system, and I refunded her the difference between the least expensive system and the system she actually purchased. And we issued her a check, and we got a letter from her outlining this amazing thing we did for her. We got a copy of the check, and we incorporated that into our sales process. So when I'm talking to my next set of homeowners, I would say, here's a little story to tell you who you're dealing with. Here's our signature story that defines who we are as a company. And I would share that Sarah Parker story. Then, of course, I would show the letter from Sarah Parker. I would show on the backside the check that we refunded her the difference. This was a very, very powerful, very persuasive tool to get people to understand, wow, if they would do this for a cancer victim, what does it say about our service, just in terms of maintaining the system and making sure that it works properly? You see, it conveyed the message that there is no risk in doing business with my company. As a result, we sold $20 million of systems over 5 years because people came to understand there was no risk in doing business with my company.